Welcome back to Beginning Band COVID Companion, Distance Learning for Band. This is video 3 of a 4-part series. We already learned how to assemble and disassemble our instrument. Then we learned how to maintain the mechanics of the instrument and disinfect it. Now we will learn how to make beautiful sounds on just the mouthpiece part. Lastly, we will perform our first notes together. Your sits bones, spine, and neck are all stacked so as to not inhibit breathing. Your arms will be gently lifted away from your body, and your shoulders will be down and relaxed. This is especially important for flute. You may turn your head up to 45 degrees to the left to make for the most natural feeling of being able to hold the flute without tension, see your music, and see your conductor at the same time. Your flute needs to be parallel to the ground. As for your hand position, your hands will be in a relaxed C formation like the letter C. In order to find this, let your hands relax at your sides without your instrument first. Then, without changing your hands at all, simply bring your hands up and look at them. They will be in a relaxed C formation. The left hand palm faces you when you play the flute. Your index finger will form a chair upon which the flute will rest in your left hand. When you're finding where to put your fingers on the flute, skip the first little key nearest to the mouthpiece, and your index finger will go on the second little key. We call this finger number 1. Skip the next first big key after your index finger, and your middle finger will go on the second big key after that. We call this finger number 2. The ring finger of your left hand will go on the next key after your middle finger, so you don't have to skip any keys this time. There are 2 different keys for your left thumb, but we're almost always going to be using the flatter thumb key instead of the golf club shaped thumb key. If you look at the picture on the left, you can see this flute player's left hand. As for your right hand, your right palm will actually face away from you. The tip of your right thumb will go underneath the D trill key, which happens to be the trill key between your index and middle finger when you put your index and middle finger on the flute. It's easiest to put your right pinky on the first key of the foot joint. This is called the E flat key. After you've put your right pinky on the E flat key, the next 3 keys to the left of your pinky are going to be for your ring finger, your middle finger, and your index finger. We call those 3 fingers 4, 5, and 6. Your elbows should hang freely and loosely away from your body, not tense, but also not collapsed. If you play while facing a mirror, you can see if your lip plate is centered on your lips. Also, if you play while facing a mirror, you can see if your lip plate is centered on your lips vertically as well. The flute should be slightly lowered into your chin crease. The exact point on your chin where your flute will lie is partially determined by the structure of your face, since we all have different chins. Please see the picture on the left for the correct placement on your chin. Also, you can use a mirror to see if the lip plate is centered on your lips in terms of the mouthpiece being rolled forward or the mouthpiece being rolled outward. Draw the corners of your lips very slightly downward into an ooh instead of a smile. This will help your airstream direction aim at a downward diagonal. If your air is too far into the hole, it will produce a dead sounding tone. If it's aimed too far across the hole, it will create a bright, thin tone. You can experiment to find the angle that finds the sweet spot where it sounds the most beautiful, that is not too dead or too thin. There are other variables behind your embouchure that can improve your tone. The space between your teeth when you play should be approximately a thumb's width apart. Be careful, when you test this, make sure your hands are clean. Also, your tongue should rest against your bottom teeth, but not in any kind of tense way. Everything behind your tongue, for instance, your soft palate in your throat, should be kept open as though you are yawning. Go ahead and yawn right now to find what that relaxed feeling behind your tongue feels like. When it's time to actually play your notes, you're going to want to make a two, two, two sound instead of a who sound. Start your air and let your instrument make sound. Then interrupt that sound by having your tongue touch the ridge behind your top teeth. That sound that you make is called the to sound. That sound is how we will want to start almost every note. Now that you've seen the correct and incorrect postures, hand techniques, and embouchure, it's time for us to make beautiful sounds on our mouthpieces. There are only a few more things you need to know before you start making sounds on your mouthpiece. The first technique is called the kiss and roll. Now, you're only going to do this one time, and it's going to be the very first time you put the mouthpiece to your face. After you do it that very first time, you shouldn't do it again, because your face should just know where your flute is supposed to rest. So the kiss and roll is where you hold your flute mouthpiece so that the open end is on your right and the cap is on your left. So you will take the opening of your lips and put it right on the hole of your mouthpiece so that you are kissing the hole in the lip plate. Then we will roll the mouthpiece out until 1/3 of the lip plate hole is being covered by your bottom lip. Now, you might not be able to see if 1/3 of the hole is covered, but we're going to do some tests together to make sure we're really hitting the sweet spot for the core of our most beautiful sound. There's a lot of ways to find that sweet spot, but for now, kiss and roll. It should land right about there. Your lip plate should be lowered onto your chin crease so that 1/3 of the lip hole is being covered by your bottom lip. The next step is to draw the corners of your smile slightly downward to form a bit of an ooh face. Go ahead and say ooh and feel what happens to the corners of your smile as they're pulled oh so slightly downward. The next thing that we're going to do is find centeredness in 4 different ways on just our mouthpiece. The first way to find centeredness is to check if our mouthpiece is too far to the left or too far to the right. The way that we can check for this is by checking the vapor trails. As you blow across the mouthpiece, you will see that steam accumulates on the opposite side of your mouthpiece where your airstream was.
You want to go back and forth until you find that sweet spot that has the best sound. The next dimension that you need to find centeredness on your mouthpiece is up versus down. If it's too high off of your chin, it's going to produce a dead sound. If it's too low down on your chin, it's not going to produce any sound at all. You want to go until you really find that sweet spot. The next dimension that you want to check for centeredness on your flute mouthpiece is forward versus backwards. If my mouthpiece is off of my chin, I might as well be blowing on a pop bottle. If it is pressed too far into my chin, it's going to have a tense, nasty sound too. Lastly, and probably most importantly, we have the roll dimension. If your mouthpiece is rolled too far out, you're going to have a nasty tone. If it's rolled too far in, you're going to have a flat and dead tone. So you want to experiment in and out until you find that sweet spot of your tone, and then you never want to change it again. Did you hear how it went up and down at the end? You really want to find that sweet spot of the best tone on your mouthpiece. Feel free to pause the video now and find the sweet spot on all 4 of those dimensions. It's extremely important, and it can eliminate a lot of bad habits before they start. The next thing that we want to talk about is your airstream direction. Now, the mouthpiece does go in front of your face, and you do have to blow your air across it in order for it to make sound, but what direction is the best direction? Now, if we blow straight down into the hole, it's kind of dead sounding. And if we aim our air too far across the hole, it has that shrill sound to it. So you want to aim it at about a 45-degree down angle like this. There we go. There are some other variables that can affect your embouchure as well. The first one that I want to talk about is your jaw and how separated your teeth want to be when you're about to play the flute. And then when you go and play, your jaw should be separated just that much, and that's going to contribute to a better tone. Let's start to talk about your tongue, because it's an extremely important part of flute playing. You can rest your tongue against the back of your bottom teeth. You will need to use your tongue in between notes, but in terms of where it's going to be before you start your note, just let it rest right on the bottom of your teeth. Another variable that will affect the way that you sound is what's going on behind your tongue. Everything behind your tongue in your mouth, from your soft palate to your throat, should be relaxed and it should be open. Your band director is going to be talking a lot about your tongue in terms of starting your notes. So let's learn how to do that. Go ahead and find your mouthpiece on your face on those exact 4 sweet spots that we talked about earlier. And we're going to blow air across the top of our mouthpiece. And in the middle of blowing that air, I'm going to interrupt the note with my tongue. Listen, and you'll find that it sounds like hoo, too, 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 too. And I want you to do that because it'll teach you where to put your tongue in order to say two in the middle of a note. The letter T is an awesome start to every note that you play in band. Next, let's talk about what to do with your hands when you're playing the flute. First, we want to find a nice relaxed position. So go ahead and take all of the tension out of your shoulders and just let your hands rest at your side. Really, relax, shake it out, do what you have to do. Now, without moving any of your fingers, go ahead and bring up your hands and look at them. They should have formed some natural C's. This is what the position that you want to have your hands on the flute to eliminate tension and so that it will hurt less. You'll also be able to play faster too. We want to take those C's that we talked about a minute ago, and your left hand palm is going to face you. Your right hand palm is going to face away from you. skip the top key. Your first finger will go on the second key. We'll skip another key here between your first and second finger. Then your second and third fingers will go right there. Your left pinky will rest on this key right here, called the A flat key, also known as the G sharp key. Skip 2 more keys. We don't ever need to press those. After we skip those 2, we can put our 4th finger down, 5th finger down, and 6th finger down. Those are right in a row. We don't need to skip anything there. Lastly, we have our E flat key that we talked about earlier that our right pinky gets to rest on. So in review, first finger, skip the first key, put it on the second one, skip the next key, and you'll have your second and third finger. If you're struggling to figure out where those are, set your pinky first. Put it right there on that A flat key, and then I'll go 3, 2, skip it, 1. Some people also like to think that your index finger just goes on the second one down. As for my right hand, if you're confused about where they should go, just set your pinky first, right on the E flat key, and it can go 6, 5, 4. That's how they should look. All the while maintaining that initial relaxed C position that we talked about earlier. We're going to take our right hand and bring it right over your shoulder to the right. We're going to take our left hand and put it a little bit in front of our face. Now, of course, we're going to have the mouthpiece attached, but just get used to where your fingers have to go first. We have high notes and we have low notes. High notes are going to require fast, cold air with a small opening in between your lips. This small opening is called your aperture. For higher notes, we want our opening to resemble more of a coffee stir, or if you don't know what that is, think of making the opening between your lips about the size of the width of a toothpick, so very small, kind of like this. In order to get low notes on the flute, we need to use warm, slow, dark air. If you want to practice this, you can cover up the end of your mouthpiece with your palm, and the aperture, which is the opening between your lips, will need to be a little bit wider. Think about making it approximately the size of a milkshake straw, so quite a bit bigger than before. Take some time to practice doing high notes and low notes and switching in between. Always start with that T tongue that we talked about before, the 2, 2, 2 tongue. Go ahead and practice with me.